A sudden emergency broadcast interrupts TV programs, announcing the emergence of a new virus at an airport. Those infected become uncontrollably aggressive, and chaos erupts as the airport goes up in flames. 2 months later, the virus has spread across the globe, turning into a worldwide pandemic. It mutates people into zombie-like creatures known as ferals, who are seen as savage monsters. The government attempts to enforce a quarantine, but many citizens resist, arguing that ferals are still human and deserve rights. Protests break out, forcing the military to take control of the streets, clashing with civilians, and escalating the crisis further. One evening, all television broadcasts suddenly go dark. Abigail and her brother receive a call from their father, a pilot, who reassures them that he is busy helping people and promises they will be safe with their mother. At that moment, a strange noise comes from upstairs, prompting the family to flee the house. Just as they reach their car, a feral ambushes them, attacking their mother. Abigail hides beneath the vehicle, witnessing in horror as the creature mauls her brother. A nearby police siren startles the feral, causing it to flee. Moments later, Abigail hears her brother calling her name, only for their mother, now transformed into a feral, to finish him off. Abigail's sobs attract her feral mother, but before she can attack, Cassius arrives and shoots her. He rescues Abigail, who clings to him in gratitude. As her brother starts transforming, Cassius tells Abigail to close her eyes before ending his suffering. A decade later, the world has become a post-apocalyptic wasteland, with only a few humans remaining as nature reclaims abandoned cities. In a dense forest, a now teenage Abigail and Cassius are hunting. Abigail demonstrates her skill by taking down a deer with a well-placed shot. But Cassius criticizes her for being too hasty. That night, they set up camp, ensuring the tripwires around them are secure. Hours later, a noise wakes Cassius. He investigates and finds strands of fur caught in the wire. As distant sounds grow closer, he rushes to calm the horses and readies his gun, just in time to take down an approaching feral. Suspecting it was a scout for a larger horde, Cassius wakes Abigail, and they prepare to leave. Over the next few days, they continue their journey. When stopping to rest, Cassius trains Abigail further in survival skills. One afternoon, they spot a car and draw their weapons. A man is fighting off a feral, unaware that another one is closing in behind him. Abigail fires, but in her haste, she accidentally hits both the man and the feral. The creature inside the car emerges to attack, forcing Cassius to kill it. Abigail searches the vehicle for supplies, while Cassius finishes off the wounded man with a machete before taking his boots. A radio crackles to life, with someone trying to contact the driver. Abigail wants to warn them about the feral horde nearby, but Cassius insists they ignore it. Suddenly, several cars arrive, and a group of survivors surrounds them with weapons drawn. Seeing the dead man, they assume Abigail and Cassius killed him to steal his belongings. When the leader threatens them, Cassius and Abigail swiftly take down two of their captors and arm themselves. The standoff intensifies until a pregnant woman named Megan steps out of a vehicle, attempting to defuse the situation. At that moment, the horses react in fear, signaling the arrival of a feral horde. Gunfire erupts as both groups fight desperately to hold the creatures back. Despite their efforts, the ferals close in, forcing Cassius and Abigail into brutal hand-to-hand combat. The other survivors rely solely on firearms, making them easy targets. One woman tries to use a Molotov, but a feral tackles her, causing the bomb to explode against a car, throwing Cassius backward. A bitten survivor attempts to end his own life, but his gun is empty, leading to his transformation. The leader is seized by a hulking feral and brutally crushed. Megan's husband, David, is also attacked, but he manages to push the creature away. Abigail helps Megan and David into a car, while Cassius fights off more ferals before joining them. As they drive off, a feral clings to the roof. Cassius slams the brakes, throwing the creature off, giving Abigail time to retrieve their gear before they escape. Watching them flee, the large feral, enraged over the loss of his mate, lets out a furious roar. Once they're on the road, Abigail checks their ammunition and realizes they've lost most of it. Megan explains they were heading to a settlement by the riverside and that she's in her 35th week, meaning the baby will arrive soon. However, Abigail and Cassius believe searching for settlements isn't worth it, as they've come across many before, and none have lasted. Suddenly, the vehicle stalls and the group discovers the engine is dead, leaving them no choice but to proceed on foot. Not long after, they arrive in an abandoned town and decide to spend the night there. They search a building to ensure there aren't any ferals around before setting up camp. Megan offers to share her food, but Cassius and Abigail only consume what they hunt to avoid infection. The couple explains they had spoken to the settlement over the radio and know they have plenty of supplies and medical personnel. It's a week-long journey to reach it, making it a risky endeavor. In return, Abigail shares that she and Cassius are trying to reach the west coast to escape to the islands by boat. After Cassius sets up tripwires outside, he pulls out a map and advises the couple on the best route to the settlement. However, he refuses to accompany them, claiming the horde will return for revenge. Abigail speaks privately with Cassius, insisting they should assist the couple and that this settlement might be different. A disagreement follows, but Cassius remains firm in his decision.
Get off your high horse.
In the middle of the night, the horde finds the broken-down vehicle and tracks the road to town. Meanwhile, the men struggle to sleep, and Cassius shows David the bullet he always keeps in his pocket in case he's ever bitten. The only thing David has is a cigarette and an injured ankle. They talk for a while and develop a bond, leading Cassius to agree to help them reach the settlement. At dawn, Abigail hears a noise and goes downstairs to investigate. A feral suddenly lunges at her, making her drop her gun, but she quickly kills it with her machete. Another feral chases her up the stairs, and Abigail uses a shattered window to throw the creature out of the building. She nearly falls as well, but Cassius catches her just in time. By the time the horde arrives at the building, the group has already left. A feral trips over the wire, triggering a minor explosion that eliminates it. Later, Abigail recognizes the area and remembers a nearby civilian airport where her father had a small plane. Cassius prefers to keep moving, believing an airport would be a trap, allowing the horde to corner them. Additionally, he assumes all planes are gone. However, Abigail and the couple vote to check it out, forcing Cassius to go along. After walking for some time, they come across an old building and a car containing a man who was recently shot. Cassius tells Abigail to search the building for supplies but refuses to stop and rest, suspecting they aren't alone. Abigail only finds some coffee and doesn't notice the family hiding in one of the rooms. Cassius searches the car's trunk and finds a wheelchair, which they use to transport Megan. Shortly after they leave, the horde reaches the building and mercilessly slaughters the hidden family. Upon arriving at the airport, they find no planes in sight. David and Cassius begin arguing about their next move, but Abigail interrupts when she discovers her father's hangar. Fortunately, there's a plane inside, and David possesses the mechanical skills needed to repair it. While he works, Cassius and Abigail search the building. Abigail finds a picture of her and her father on the floor, and places it back on the wall. At that moment, the horde arrives, forcing the group to rush onto the plane even though it's not ready. Cassius opens fire to slow the horde, while David manually turns the propeller to get the plane started. Abigail's piloting knowledge is limited, and the plane struggles to gain speed as the horde closes in.
Gotta go faster, we're not gonna make it!
Just in time, she finds the right controls, and the plane accelerates. A feral manages to cling to the door, but Cassius shoots it off. The plane takes off, allowing them to escape. However, after only a few moments, it starts to malfunction and descends rapidly. Abigail attempts to land it, but the aircraft crashes into several trees before hitting the ground. Luckily, it lands upright, and everyone survives with only minor injuries. Nearby, they find a train station. After confirming it's empty, they decide to rest there. Cassius examines the map and determines it will take 2 days to reach the settlement, so they plan to leave at first light. Abigail checks their ammunition and notes they have very little left. Megan and Cassius share a meal, and Cassius admits that she reminds him of his late wife. He reveals that he had to eliminate her infected family, and later, she took her own life because she couldn't endure the loss. Cassius also recounts a story about a boy in his hometown who was bitten. Since the wound didn't hit a major artery, it took days for him to fully transform. Meanwhile, David finds a secluded spot to check his ankle, revealing it's not just twisted, it's a bite. Knowing what this means, he contemplates ending things himself, holding up his gun, but he can't go through with it. The next morning, the group resumes their journey. As they walk under the intense sun, David grows weaker, and Cassius notices blood seeping from his leg. He waits until the women are far ahead before shoving David against a tree and inspecting his ankle to confirm his suspicion. Cassius gives him the chance to reveal the truth on his own terms, but warns that if he doesn't do it soon, he'll put a bullet in him. That evening, the group stumbles upon a house with its lights on. As they approach, a voice calls out, asking what they want. Cassius believes it's too risky, but Abigail steps forward, explaining their need for assistance, swearing they mean no harm, and mentioning the pregnant woman. Norton opens the door, aiming a gun at them while demanding they leave all their weapons in the chest outside. Once they comply, he welcomes them inside with an unexpectedly warm demeanor. Cassius quickly notices the house has electricity, and Norton explains that as an engineer, he's built a few devices to generate power and hot water. He briefly mentions having a wife but avoids Megan's question about her whereabouts. Norton shares his bread and vegetables, and Abigail is relieved to finally take a shower. Cassius takes the opportunity to connect his laptop and browse old photos, revealing that his wife had been pregnant before the outbreak. Later, when he checks on Megan, she confesses she's frightened because she hasn't felt the baby move since they arrived. She makes Cassius swear that if anything happens to her, he'll protect her child. That night, Norton shares a drink with them, recounting how he's lived there for 2 decades. He admits to hearing about the colony through the radio but expresses no interest in joining, enjoying his solitude instead. Then he begins to rant about how people are obsessed with restoring the past, arguing that humanity brought the catastrophe upon itself by destroying the planet and their own morality. He even likens the virus to natural selection, claiming only the strong have survived. Cassius notices an unusual knife on a table, but before he can inquire, Norton swiftly removes it. David, feeling increasingly unwell, rushes to the bathroom, where he realizes the infection is spreading. When he returns, he finds his companions unconscious. Their drinks had been drugged by Norton, who now wears a lab coat and holds a strange machine. Seeing David's condition, Norton activates the device, which emits a sound that causes David to collapse in agony. Norton explains that the machine functions like a dog whistle but only affects the infected, before David loses consciousness. Meanwhile, the horde has reached the train station and continues searching. When David wakes up, he discovers the entire group bound in a basement. Norton, taking notes for his experiment, reveals that his infected wife is locked in a cage. He releases her, using his device to command her to attack. Cassius and Abigail kick her away, forcing her toward David. Breaking free from his restraints, David fights back. Their struggle is brief before he overpowers her, prompting Norton to use his machine again to stop him from freeing the others. However, since David isn't fully transformed, he pushes through the pain and unties the rest of the group. Cassius seizes a gun and fires at Norton, who immediately flees. The group rushes upstairs, barricading the door behind them, but Norton starts hacking at it with an axe. Abigail snatches Norton's car keys, while Cassius gathers their belongings before turning to punch David, intent on shooting him. The women, however, persuade him to hold off. As they make their way to the car, Megan realizes her water has broken. Norton steps outside, watching them drive away as his wife snarls at him. While driving through the forest, the group spots lights in the distance. The colony is near. They accelerate, but a fallen tree blocks the road, forcing them to continue on foot. With the horde closing in, they open fire, but David runs out of ammunition. Knowing he'll transform soon, he urges the others to go ahead while he buys them time. Before leaving, Cassius hands him a bullet. Once they're far enough, David lights a cigarette and takes on the ferals in hand-to-hand combat. He manages to take down several, but a massive feral ambushes him from behind, snapping his neck. The remaining ferals pursue the others, forcing Abigail to fire her weapon while Cassius carries Megan. She screams for help, drawing the attention of the colony's guards, who swiftly eliminate the approaching ferals. Seeing the dead bodies and bright lights, the rest of the horde retreats into the forest. The group is then allowed into the colony, where Megan is rushed to the infirmary, attended to by a midwife. The following morning, after meeting the colony leader, Cassius tells Abigail that they should leave soon, warning that people can't be trusted. However, Abigail, exhausted from running, chooses to ignore him. Then Cassius speaks with the midwife, who informs him that the baby is healthy, but the mother has only a few hours remaining. Cassius visits his friend and finds out that the newborn is a girl named Hope. Megan reminds him of his vow and gives him her family locket before passing away. Meanwhile, Norton arrives at the forest and discovers all the corpses. As he moves around, he eventually spots the colony as well. Right then, the horde attempts to attack him, but he instantly takes control of them using his device and declares that it's time for vengeance. Back at the colony, Cassius tends to Hope while contemplating his next move. Abigail connects with the local teenagers and joins a small gathering in the evening. Alcohol is shared, and 2 guards fall asleep, giving a few teens the chance to sneak into a tunnel. Abigail follows them and stumbles upon a strange remote control. But before she can touch it, Roderick intervenes. He reveals that the entire boat town is rigged with explosives, and if the ferals manage to get in, the remote will detonate them. However, humans can escape by using a hatch that leads to an abandoned dam. At dawn, Norton spots a guard on a boat and calls for his assistance. After taking him out, a feral leaps into the water and climbs into the colony to eliminate the other guard as well. With no one left to stop him, Norton unleashes the entire horde to attack. As survivors are slaughtered throughout the colony, a few armed individuals emerge to fight back. Abigail rescues Roderick from a feral before assigning tasks to the teen group. Those with weapons must find higher ground to fire from, and Roderick must lead survivors to the dam while she searches for Cassius. As chaos spreads, the midwife takes hope from Cassius so he can go find Abigail. The fighters begin to run low on ammunition, and the colony leader tries to flee, but a feral instantly kills him. Abigail shoots a creature just before it can attack 2 young girls, while Cassius stabs another to save a pair of teenagers. Finally, Abigail and Cassius reunite and battle the ferals side by side, using both firearms and melee combat. When they see a chance to escape, they try to join the evacuation, but Cassius hesitates after spotting Norton. A feral takes him down, but he manages to stab the creature. Norton finds him in this weakened state and starts kicking him while ranting about creating a safer world. After struggling, Cassius gets to his feet and smashes Norton against a wall before repeatedly breaking his device. He then rushes back to Abigail, while the ferals swarm Norton and tear him apart. The survivors complete their journey through the tunnel and reach the dam, where they urge Roderick to trigger the explosives. He hesitates because Abigail hasn't emerged yet. Inside the colony, a massive feral lunges at Abigail, but Cassius strikes it with an oar. When the creature collapses, Abigail sees its bracelet and is horrified to realize it's her father. The shock paralyzes her, forcing Cassius to snap her out of it and pull her toward the hatch. They dive into the tunnel just as Roderick loses patience and detonates the charges, wiping out every feral in the colony. Later, the survivors notice an infected man among them. As Cassius tries to calm him, a feral suddenly appears and kills him before lunging at Cassius, sparking another fight. The two struggle fiercely until they hit the ground, where the feral almost bites Cassius. This time, Abigail stays focused and waits for the perfect moment to shoot, eliminating the creature without harming Cassius. The survivors watch the colony burn and wonder what comes next. Abigail reassures them that they can start over in the dam, and Cassius reveals he swiped Norton's notebook, which contains instructions on how to construct a generator.